You're time traveling right now. Yes, you heard that right. As you sit there watching this video, you are literally moving through time at exactly 1 second per second into the future. But here's what will blow your mind. That rate isn't constant for everyone in the universe. Right now, astronauts on the International Space Station are aging slower than you are. GPS satellites have to account for time running faster in their orbits, or your navigation would be off by miles within hours. But that's just the beginning. What if I told you that Einstein proved over a century ago that traveling to the future is not only possible, it's inevitable and measurable? What if I told you that particles smaller than atoms routinely travel backward through time in our laboratories? And what if I told you that some of the world's most brilliant physicists believe that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in what they call the block universe? Today, we're going to journey through the mind-bending reality of time travel, from the rock-solid science that proves it exists, to the cutting-edge theories that suggest you might be able to change your own past. We'll explore why time travel creates paradoxes that could unravel reality itself, and why some scientists think these paradoxes might actually be the key to understanding the deepest mysteries of existence. Before we dive into this mind-melting journey, hit that like button if you're ready to have your understanding of reality completely transformed. And subscribe with notifications on, because this is going to be one wild ride through the fabric of spacetime itself. Also, drop a comment telling me what country you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why that question is far more complex than it seems. Let's start with a question that might seem simple. What is time? You might think time is like a river flowing in one direction, carrying us from past to future. But that's where our journey into the impossible begins, because that intuitive understanding is completely wrong. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a car driving down a straight highway. From your perspective, you're moving forward through space, passing mile markers one by one. Now imagine that instead of mile markers, you're passing moment markers, seconds, minutes, hours. That's how we usually think about time. But Einstein showed us something revolutionary. What if the entire highway, all the mile markers, exist simultaneously? What if movement through time is more like choosing which part of the highway to observe? This is where Albert Einstein comes in. And trust me, his discoveries are going to shatter everything you think you know about time. In 1905, Einstein published his special theory of relativity, which proved that time is not the constant, universal flow we experience. Instead, time is relative. It depends on how fast you're moving and how strong the gravitational field around you is. Here's the first mind-blown moment. Einstein showed that if you travel at high speeds, time literally slows down for you relative to everyone else. This isn't science fiction. It's measurable reality. In 1971, physicists Haffel and Keating took atomic clocks on airplanes and flew them around the world. When they compared these traveling clocks to identical ones that stayed on the ground, the traveling clocks were running slow by exactly the amount Einstein predicted, a few hundred billionths of a second. But here's what gets really wild. This effect scales up dramatically. If you could travel at 90% the speed of light for what feels like 1 year to you, when you return to Earth, you'd find that over 2 years had passed here. You would have literally traveled into Earth's future. Now, let me blow your mind again with gravitational time dilation. Einstein's general theory of relativity, published in 1915, showed that gravity doesn't just bend space, it bends time. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time moves. GPS satellites orbit about 12,500 miles above Earth, where gravity is weaker, so their clocks run about 45 microseconds per day, faster than clocks on Earth's surface. Without correcting for this time difference, GPS would accumulate errors of about 6 miles per day. Think of it like being in a swimming pool. The deeper you go, the more pressure you feel. Similarly, the deeper you are in a gravitational field, the slower time moves for you. If you could somehow survive standing on the surface of a neutron star, where gravity is 200 billion times stronger than Earth's, time would crawl so slowly that what feels like a minute to you would be hours passing for someone watching from a safe distance. This leads us to something that sounds impossible, but is absolutely real. We are all time travelers moving into the future, but at different rates depending on where we are and how fast we're moving. The person living on the ground floor of a skyscraper is aging infinitesimally slower than someone on the top floor because they're deeper in Earth's gravitational field. Now that you understand time is relative, let's dive into the spectacular evidence that time travel to the future isn't just possible. It's happening all around us, all the time. And the proof comes from some of the most extreme places in the universe. What if I told you that there are particles created in our atmosphere that shouldn't be able to reach Earth's surface, but they do because they're time traveling? Here's what I mean. Cosmic rays from space constantly bombard our atmosphere, creating particles called muons about 10 miles up. These muons are unstable and typically decay in about 2 microseconds. At the speed they're traveling, they should only make it about 2,000 feet before disappearing, nowhere near Earth's surface. But here's the mind-bending part. We detect these muons at ground level all the time. How is this possible? From our perspective, the muons are moving so fast that time slows down for them, allowing them to live longer and reach the surface. From the muon's perspective, if it could have one, it's not living longer instead. The distance to Earth's surface has contracted due to relativistic effects. Either way you look at it, these particles are essentially time traveling, and we can measure it happening thousands of times per second. Let me share another mind-blown moment. The fastest spacecraft humans have ever built, the Parker Solar Probe, reaches speeds of about 430,000 miles per hour as it swoops past the sun. At this speed, time dilation means that after a 7-year mission, the spacecraft's clock will be about 22 milliseconds behind clocks on Earth. The spacecraft will have literally traveled 22 milliseconds into Earth's future. But let's scale this up to something truly spectacular. There's a star system called PSRJ 1748-2446 AD that contains a neutron star spinning 716 times per second. The surface of this star is moving at about 24% the speed of light. If you could somehow place a clock on this star's surface, it would run noticeably slower than clocks in normal space. Time dilation in action on a cosmic scale. Here's where it gets even more incredible. Black holes represent the ultimate time machines for traveling to the future. As you approach a black hole's event horizon, time dilation becomes extreme. If you fell toward a black hole while your friend watched from a safe distance, they would see your motion slow down dramatically as you approached the event horizon. From their perspective, you would appear to freeze in time, your image getting redder and dimmer until it faded away. But from your perspective, you would cross the event horizon in normal time and continue falling. This creates what physicists call the information paradox. From the outside universe's perspective, nothing ever actually falls into a black hole because time dilation makes it appear to freeze at the event horizon. But from the falling object's perspective, it definitely crosses the event horizon. Both perspectives are equally valid, which suggests something profound about the nature of reality itself. The mathematician Kip Thorne, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2017 for detecting gravitational waves, has calculated that if you could orbit very close to a spinning black hole and then return to Earth, you could experience extreme time dilation. 1 hour near the black hole could equal years on Earth, making you a time traveler to Earth's future. Now we're going to dive into something that will absolutely shatter your understanding of cause and effect. In the quantum world, the realm of atoms and subatomic particles, the normal rules of time don't just bend, they completely break down. and the experimental evidence is so strange that even physicists struggle to believe it. Let me start with something called the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, first proposed by John Wheeler and later performed by physicists like Yoon-Ho Kim. This experiment shows that a decision you make in the present can retroactively determine what happened in the past. I'm not speaking metaphorically. The experimental results literally show information traveling backward through time. Think of it like this. Imagine you're watching a movie, but instead of the scenes playing in order, the ending somehow influences what happened at the beginning of the movie. That's essentially what happens in these quantum experiments. A measurement you perform on a photon today can determine whether that photon behaved as a wave or a particle yesterday, even if the yesterday part of the experiment was completed before you decided what to measure today. Here's the mind-blown moment. In 2007, physicists at the University of Vienna performed an experiment where they sent entangled photons to two different locations. They measured one photon immediately and stored the other for later measurement. When they finally measured the stored photon, its properties were correlated with its entangled partner, even though the partner had been measured before the stored photon's measurement was chosen. The correlation existed across time, suggesting information had traveled backward. But quantum time travel gets even weirder. There's a phenomenon called quantum tunneling, where particles can pass through barriers that should be impossible to cross according to classical physics. In 1962, physicist Brian Josephson predicted that electrons could tunnel through barriers faster than light should travel, and experiments have confirmed this. Some interpretations suggest these electrons are taking shortcuts through time itself. The physicist Aharonov and his colleagues discovered something called weak measurement, which allows us to observe quantum systems without fully collapsing their wave functions. Using this technique, they've measured particles that seem to spend negative time in quantum tunneling. Essentially, the particles appear to exit the barrier before they enter it. Now, here's where quantum mechanics becomes truly mind-bending. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every quantum measurement causes reality to split into parallel universes. From this perspective, time travel paradoxes might be solved because traveling to the past would create a new timeline rather than changing your original one. The physicist Hugh Everett III proposed this in 1957, and it's gained support from prominent scientists like Max Tegmark and Sean Carroll. Consider this thought experiment. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in superposition, multiple states simultaneously until observed. What if time itself works the same way? What if past, present, and future all exist in superposition until consciousness observes them into definite states? This would mean that consciousness plays a fundamental role in creating the flow of time itself. The quantum Zeno effect provides another glimpse into time's strange quantum nature. If you observe a quantum system frequently enough, you can actually freeze its evolution in time. It's as if your active observation is preventing the system from changing, manipulating time through consciousness alone. We've established that traveling to the future is not just possible, but inevitable. Now let's explore the mind-bending possibility of traveling to the past through shortcuts in space-time itself. We're entering the realm of wormholes, cosmic tunnels that could connect distant regions of space and time. Einstein's field equations, the mathematical foundation of general relativity, allow for solutions that describe bridges through space-time. In 1935, Einstein and his colleague Nathan Rosen described what are now called Einstein-Rosen bridges, theoretical passages through space-time that could connect two distant regions of the universe, or even two different times. Think of it like this. Imagine space-time as a sheet of paper. Normally, to travel from one point to another, you'd have to trace a path along the surface of the paper. But what if you could fold the paper so that two distant points touch, and poke a hole connecting them? You could take a shortcut through the hole. That's essentially what a wormhole would be. Here's what will blow your mind. The physicist Kip Thorne showed that if traversable wormholes exist, they could be turned into time machines. Here's how it would work. Imagine you have a wormhole connecting two regions of space. Take one end of the wormhole and accelerate it to near the speed of light, then bring it back. Due to time dilation, less time passes for the traveling end than the stationary end. Now you have a wormhole where one end is in the past relative to the other. A time machine. The physicist Michael Morris, working with Thorne, calculated exactly what would be needed to keep a wormhole open for travel. Unfortunately, it would require exotic matter with negative energy density, something that might not exist in nature. However, quantum field theory suggests that negative energy might be possible under certain conditions, like the Casimir effect, where quantum vacuum fluctuations create measurable negative pressure between parallel plates. But here's where it gets really interesting. In 2013, physicists Juan Maldacena and Leonard Susskind proposed that quantum entanglement and wormholes might be the same phenomenon. They suggested that when two particles are entangled, they're connected by a microscopic wormhole. This I equals EPR conjecture links Einstein-Rosen bridges with Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen entanglement, suggesting that the quantum world is literally riddled with tiny wormholes. If this is true, it means wormholes aren't exotic, impossible objects. They're fundamental features of reality at the quantum scale. The challenge would be enlarging these microscopic wormholes to macroscopic size while keeping them stable and traversable. Some physicists have proposed even more exotic possibilities. The theoretical physicist Amos Ory showed that certain rotating configurations of matter and energy could create closed time-like curves, paths through spacetime that loop back to their own past. Ronald Mallet has proposed using intense laser light to twist spacetime into loops that could allow time travel. Here's a mind-bending thought. If wormholes exist and can connect different times, then the universe might be filled with travelers from the future. They could be visiting our time right now, observing historical events firsthand. The absence of obvious time travelers might not prove time travel is impossible. It might just mean future time travelers are very good at staying hidden. The physicist Stephen Hawking proposed the chronology protection conjecture, the idea that the laws of physics somehow prevent time travel paradoxes from occurring. But recent research suggests this protection might not be absolute, leading to the possibility that time travel could create branching timelines rather than paradoxes. Now we're going to tackle the most famous problem in time travel theory: paradoxes that seem to make backward time travel logically impossible. But as we'll see, these paradoxes might actually reveal profound truths about the nature of reality, free will, and the structure of the universe itself. The grandfather paradox is the classic example. If you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, you would never be born. But if you were never born, you couldn't have traveled back in time to prevent their meeting. It's a logical contradiction that seems to rule out backward time travel entirely. But here's what will blow your mind. Modern physics has found several solutions to this paradox, and each one reveals something stunning about how reality might actually work. The first solution is the many worlds approach. According to this interpretation, when you travel to the past, you don't arrive in your own past. You arrive in a parallel universe that's identical to your past up to that point. When you prevent your grandparents from meeting, you create a new timeline where you're never born, but your original timeline continues to exist. You become a visitor from an alternate reality. Think of it like this. Imagine reality as a tree with branches. When you time travel, you don't go back down the same branch. You jump to a different branch that looks identical up to the point where you arrive. Your actions create a new branch where history unfolds differently. This solves the paradox because there's no logical contradiction. You exist in one timeline while preventing your own birth in another. The physicist David Deutsch has shown that quantum mechanics naturally supports this many-world solution. In his calculations, the act of time travel automatically creates the parallel timelines needed to avoid paradoxes. The universe essentially protects itself from logical contradictions by splitting into multiple realities. But there's another mind-bending solution called the consistency principle, or Novikov's self-consistency conjecture, proposed by the physicist Igor Novikov. This principle suggests that if you travel to the past, you are always part of that past. Any actions you take are already baked into history. You can't change the past because you're part of the past that created your present. Here's how this would work in the grandfather paradox. If you travel back and try to prevent your grandparents from meeting, something will always stop you. Maybe you'll slip on a banana peel at the crucial moment, or you'll realize the man you thought was your grandfather is actually someone else. The universe conspires to maintain consistency. This leads to a mind-blown moment. Under the consistency principle, you don't have free will in the past. Your actions are constrained by the requirement that they must lead to the future you came from. It's as if the universe is a four-dimensional sculpture where past, present, and future are carved from a single block of spacetime. Some physicists have proposed even more exotic solutions. The parallel processing model suggests that reality constantly computes all possible timelines simultaneously, and consciousness simply experiences one consistent path through this computational space. Time travel would be like switching between different computational threads. The physicist Seth Lloyd has shown that quantum computers might naturally solve temporal paradoxes through quantum superposition. In a quantum universe, you could exist in a superposition of having and not having prevented your grandparents' meeting, with the paradox resolved when the universe measures itself into a consistent state. Here's another mind-bending possibility. What if consciousness itself is what creates the arrow of time? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that observation collapses quantum states, effectively creating the past. If this is true, then time travel might allow consciousness to participate in creating its own history. Bootstrap paradox, where effect becomes cause. We're about to explore something that might be even stranger than the grandfather paradox, bootstrap paradoxes, where information or objects exist without any origin point. These paradoxes challenge our most basic assumptions about causality and might reveal that the universe is far weirder than we ever imagined. A bootstrap paradox occurs when an effect is its own cause, creating a causal loop with no beginning. Here's the classic example. Imagine you travel back in time and give Shakespeare a book of his complete works, which he then copies and publishes as his own. Where did the plays originally come from? They came from the future you, who got them from Shakespeare, who got them from you. The information exists in a loop with no origin point. Think of it like this. Imagine a circle drawn on a piece of paper. You can follow the circle around and around, but you can never find where it starts. Bootstrap paradoxes create circular causality, events that are their own cause and effect simultaneously. But here's what will blow your mind. Bootstrap paradoxes might not be paradoxes at all. They might be fundamental features of how reality actually works. The physicist John Wheeler proposed that the universe might be self-creating through participatory anthropic principle, the idea that conscious observation in the present helps determine the physical laws and constants that made consciousness possible in the first place. Recent research in quantum mechanics supports the idea that circular causality might be real. The physicist Yakir Aharonov discovered retrocausal effects in quantum mechanics, where the final state of a quantum system influences its initial state. In laboratory experiments, measuring a particle's final position can retroactively determine properties it had before the measurement was even planned. Here's a mind-bending example from real physics. In 2012, physicists performed an experiment where they measured a particle's polarization after it had already been detected by another instrument. Somehow, the later measurement retroactively determined what the earlier detector had measured. It's as if the effect reached back through time to create its own cause. The quantum phenomenon of delayed choice experiments shows that particles can exist in superposition, not just in space, but in time. A photon can travel from point A to point B while being simultaneously wave and particle until the moment of observation. And that observation can occur after the photon has completed its journey. The measurement retroactively determines what happened in the past. This leads to an astonishing possibility. The universe might be filled with causal loops where the future influences the past, which influences the future in endless cycles. What we perceive as linear cause and effect might be just our limited perspective on a reality where all moments exist simultaneously and influence each other. Bootstrap paradoxes also appear in cosmology. Some models of the universe suggest it might be self-creating. The Big Bang creates spacetime, which allows for the conditions that cause the Big Bang. The universe becomes its own cause and effect, existing in a temporal bootstrap loop that has no beginning or end. The physicist Frank Teibler has proposed that sufficiently advanced civilizations might be able to create omega point scenarios where the far future influences the deep past through information processing at cosmic scales. In this model, the universe evolves toward a state of maximum computational complexity, and this final state reaches back through time to fine-tune the initial conditions that made complex computation possible. Here's another mind-blown moment. If bootstrap paradoxes are real, then novelty and creativity might work differently than we think. New ideas might not originate in individual minds, but could emerge from causal loops that span multiple timelines. The inspiration for a scientific discovery might come from a future where that discovery has already been made, and its consequences have rippled back through time. Prepare to have your understanding of time completely revolutionized. What if everything you think you know about past, present, and future is wrong? What if all moments in time, from the Big Bang to the heat-death of the universe, exist simultaneously in a higher dimensional structure that physicists call the block universe or eternalism? This isn't science fiction. It's a serious interpretation of Einstein's relativity that many prominent physicists accept. Einstein himself believed in the block universe, famously writing to the family of his deceased friend Michel Besso, "For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Think of it like this. Imagine a movie reel containing every frame of a film. From the perspective of someone watching the movie, the frames appear in sequence. Past frames are gone, the current frame is now, and future frames don't exist yet. But from the perspective of someone looking at the entire reel, all frames exist simultaneously. The block universe suggests that spacetime is like that movie reel. All moments exist equally, and our sense of moving through time is just our limited perspective. Here's the evidence that supports this mind-bending idea. Einstein's relativity shows that simultaneity is relative. Events that appear simultaneous to one observer might occur at different times for another observer moving at a different velocity. If you're moving toward a distant star, events on that star that you consider now are actually in what a stationary observer would consider the future. If you're moving away from the star, your now corresponds to the stationary observer's past. This leads to a profound conclusion. If simultaneity is relative, then there's no universal present moment. The entire universe doesn't experience now together. Instead, different observers slice through the block universe at different angles, creating different versions of what constitutes the present moment. The physicist Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's former teacher, described this in 1908. Henceforth, space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. Was describing space-time as a unified four-dimensional block where all events exist eternally. But here's what will truly blow your mind. If the block universe is real, then you exist at every moment of your life simultaneously. Your birth, your first day of school, this moment watching this video, and your death all exist equally in the higher dimensional structure of spacetime. What we call growing older is just your consciousness experiencing different cross-sections of your four-dimensional existence. This raises profound questions about identity and consciousness. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago? Or are you a different cross-section of a four-dimensional being? The blocked universe suggests that all versions of you exist simultaneously. You as a child, you as you are now, and you in old age, if that's part of your timeline. The physicist Julian Barber takes this even further, proposing that time itself is an emergent illusion arising from the correlations between different parts of a static, timeless reality. In his view, the universe is like a vast library containing every possible moment, and consciousness is what creates the illusion of moving from one book to another. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might be four-dimensional, extending through time just as our bodies extend through space. What we experience as memory might be our consciousness accessing earlier parts of our four-dimensional existence, while intuition or precognition might be accessing later parts. This connects to quantum mechanics in fascinating ways. If all moments exist simultaneously, then quantum superposition might represent multiple timelines coexisting in the block universe until consciousness collapses them into a single experienced reality. The act of observation doesn't just determine particle properties. It selects which timeline becomes real for the observer. Now we reach the most profound part of our journey. How does all of this connect to you personally? How does the reality of time travel, quantum temporal effects, and the block universe affect your daily life and your understanding of who you are? First, let's address something that might be troubling you right now. If all moments exist simultaneously in the block universe, do you have free will? Can your choices actually matter if the future already exists somewhere in the four-dimensional structure of spacetime? This question has kept philosophers and physicists awake at night for decades. But here's a perspective that might change everything. Even in a block universe, your choices are real and meaningful because they're part of what creates the structure of reality itself. You're not a passive observer moving through a predetermined timeline. You're an active participant whose decisions help shape the very fabric of spacetime. Think of it like this. Imagine you're an author writing a story, but as you write, you discover that you're also a character within the story. Your choices as the character influence what you write as the author, which changes the character, which changes the author. You exist simultaneously as the creator and the created, the observer and the observed. The physicist John Wheeler proposed something called the participatory universe, the idea that consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it helps create reality through the act of observation. In quantum mechanics, the measurement problem shows that particles exist in superposition until observed. Wheeler suggested that consciousness might play a similar role in creating the structure of spacetime itself. Here's a mind-blown moment that connects directly to your life. Every decision you make sends ripples both forward and backward through time. When you choose to be kind to someone, that kindness might influence their behavior in ways that ripple back to influence the events that led to your own existence. You're not just living in time, you're participating in the creation of time itself. Recent research in neuroscience suggests that consciousness might be fundamentally temporal. The psychiatrist and neuroscientist Eben Alexander, after his near-death experience, described consciousness as existing outside of normal time flow. While his specific claims are controversial, legitimate research shows that consciousness can experience time dilation, compression, and even apparent reversal under certain conditions. Consider your memories. They're not passive recordings of the past, but active reconstructions that change each time you recall them. Neuroscientist Corinne Nader's research shows that memories are reconsolidated every time they're accessed, meaning your present state of mind literally changes your past experiences. In a sense, you're constantly time traveling to your past and modifying it. Your sense of anticipation and planning also represents a form of time travel. When you imagine future scenarios and make decisions based on those imaginations, you're allowing potential futures to influence your present behavior. The future that exists only in your mind becomes a causal force in the present moment. This connects to something profound about human experience. You exist simultaneously in multiple times. Your consciousness spans your memories of the past, your experience of the present, and your anticipation of the future. You're not a point moving through time. You're a temporal being with extension through the time dimension. Here's how this reframes your daily choices. When you decide to learn something new, exercise, be creative, or show love to others, you're not just affecting your future, you're reshaping your entire timeline. The person you're becoming retroactively gives meaning to who you've been, just as who you've been provides the foundation for who you're becoming. Let's bring our journey into the practical realm. While Hollywood depicts time travel as stepping into a machine and instantly appearing in another era, real-time travel technology would be far more subtle, and in some cases, it already exists. The most accessible form of time travel available today is actually something you use regularly: GPS satellites. These satellites contain atomic clocks that must account for both special and general relativistic time dilation effects. The satellites orbit at about 12,500 miles above Earth, moving at roughly 8,700 miles per hour. At this altitude and speed, their clocks run about 45 microseconds per day fast due to weaker gravity, but about 7 microseconds per day slow due to their motion. The net effect is that satellite clocks run about 38 microseconds per day fast relative to Earth-based clocks. Without correcting for these time dilation effects, GPS would accumulate errors of about 6 miles per day. So every time you use navigation, you're relying on technology that accounts for time travel effects. Your smartphone is literally a time machine that keeps you synchronized across different rates of temporal flow. But let's talk about more dramatic possibilities. The physicist Miguel Alcubierre proposed a theoretical warp drive that could achieve faster-than-light travel by contracting spacetime in front of a spacecraft and expanding it behind. While this wouldn't directly allow time travel to the past, it would create closed time-like curves that could theoretically enable causal paradoxes. The energy requirements for an Alcubierre drive are enormous, equivalent to converting the mass of Jupiter into pure energy. However, physicist Harold White at NASA has proposed modifications that could reduce the energy requirement to something more manageable, perhaps the mass of a small spacecraft. Here's what will blow your mind. In 2012, physicist Fernando Laub and his colleagues showed that certain configurations of dark energy and exotic matter could create time machines using extensions of Alcubierre's work. While we don't know how to produce exotic matter with negative energy density, quantum field theory suggests it might be possible under extreme conditions. The particle accelerator at CERN routinely creates conditions where time dilation becomes measurable. Particles accelerated to near light speed experience significant time dilation. Muons that should decay in microseconds survive long enough to travel around the entire accelerator ring multiple times. We're literally watching particles time travel into our future every day. Laser technology has reached the point where we can create gravitational effects through intense electromagnetic fields. The physicist Ronald Mallet has proposed using intense laser light, arranged in a ring to create a gravitational field that twists spacetime. His calculations suggest this could create closed time-like curves, though the effects would be incredibly small and likely limited to subatomic particles. Quantum computers represent another frontier for temporal effects. Quantum systems naturally exhibit retrocausal effects, And some researchers are exploring whether quantum computers could be used to send information backward through time. The physicist Seth Lloyd has shown that quantum computers might naturally solve temporal paradoxes through superposition. The emerging field of temporal mechanics is exploring how quantum entanglement might be used to create temporal correlations. If consciousness plays a role in collapsing quantum wave functions, then sufficiently advanced consciousness-computer interfaces might allow direct interaction with quantum temporal effects. Here's a mind-bending possibility. Advanced civilizations might use black holes as time machines. By carefully manipulating matter and energy around rotating black holes, it might be possible to create stable, closed time-like curves. Some physicists speculate that ultra-advanced civilizations might engineer their own black holes specifically for time travel purposes. Current research into metamaterials, artificially structured materials with properties not found in nature, has shown that we can manipulate the flow of light and even create temporal cloaking effects. While these don't constitute true time travel, they represent the first steps toward technologies that could manipulate the perception and measurement of time itself. The universe itself is the ultimate time machine, filled with natural time travel effects that dwarf anything humans might ever build. As we explore the cosmos, we're not just looking out into space, we're looking back through time, witnessing the universe's own temporal journey. When you look at the nearest star, Proxima Centauri, you're seeing light that left that star over 4 years ago. You're literally looking into the past. When you observe the Andromeda Galaxy, you're seeing it as it was 2.5 million years ago, when our earliest human ancestors were just learning to use tools. The cosmic microwave background radiation that telescopes detect is light from the universe when it was only 380,000 years old. We're observing the baby picture of the cosmos itself. But the universe's time travel effects go far beyond simple light delays. Gravitational lensing allows us to see multiple images of the same distant object at different times. When a massive galaxy cluster sits between us and a more distant object, its gravity bends spacetime so severely that light from the distant object takes multiple paths to reach us, arriving at different times. In 2014, astronomers observed a supernova explosion in 4 different images, each showing the explosion at a different moment. They predicted when and where a 5th image would appear, and it did, exactly as calculated. We witnessed the same stellar death 5 times, each image a different moment in the explosion's timeline. Here's what will blow your mind. There are regions of the universe where space-time is so warped by gravity that time moves at dramatically different rates. Near the event horizon of the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy, Sagittarius I*, time dilation becomes so extreme that what we perceive as millions of years of evolution might be experienced as mere moments for anything approaching the event horizon. The physicist Kip Thorne calculated that if you could orbit very close to a rapidly spinning black hole, like the one in the movie Interstellar, which he helped design, 1 hour in that orbit could equal 7 years on Earth. This isn't science fiction. It's the inevitable result of Einstein's equations applied to extreme gravitational fields. But perhaps the most mind-bending cosmic time travel phenomenon is the expansion of the universe itself. The universe is expanding, but not uniformly. It's accelerating due to dark energy. This means that distant galaxies are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. We can see these galaxies because their light was emitted when they were closer to us, but we're seeing them as they were billions of years ago, frozen in cosmic time. The cosmic event horizon represents the ultimate boundary of observable time travel. There's a distance beyond which light will never reach us, because space is expanding faster than light can travel through it. We're literally surrounded by an expanding bubble of observable spacetime, beyond which lies an unknowable realm that might as well be in a different temporal dimension. Cosmic inflation theory suggests that during the first tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang, Spacetime itself expanded faster than light. This primordial time travel effect separated regions of the early universe that were once in causal contact, creating the large-scale structure we observe today. The universe essentially time traveled away from itself during inflation. Some cosmologists propose that the universe might be cyclic, expanding, contracting, and then bouncing back in an endless series of big bangs and big crunches. If this is true, then the universe itself is caught in an enormous temporal loop, with each cycle potentially influencing the parameters of the next through quantum effects that transcend individual cosmic epochs. We've explored various time travel paradoxes, but here's a revolutionary perspective. What if these apparent contradictions aren't problems to be solved, but revelations about the deeper nature of reality itself? What if paradoxes are actually windows into truths so profound that our linear, cause and effect thinking simply can't accommodate them? Let's revisit the information paradox that emerges from Bootstrap loops. If Shakespeare's plays come from a time traveler who got them from Shakespeare, where did the creative information originate? Traditional thinking says this is impossible because information must have a source. But what if information can be genuinely novel, emerging from the universe's own creativity without requiring a linear origin point? Think of it like this. In quantum mechanics, virtual particles pop into existence from the quantum vacuum without violating conservation laws, as long as they disappear quickly enough to satisfy the uncertainty principle. What if information works similarly? What if Bootstrap paradoxes represent moments when the universe creates genuinely new information through temporal loops, with creativity itself being a fundamental feature of spacetime? The physicist John Wheeler proposed that reality might be self-exciting, that the universe creates itself through loops of causation that span cosmic scales and deep time. In this view, consciousness, physical laws, and even existence itself might emerge from circular causation, where the whole creates its parts, and the parts create the whole. Here's a mind-blown moment. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that the act of observation retroactively determines not just particle properties, but the entire history that led to those properties. If this is true, then consciousness might be continuously engaged in creating the past through its observations in the present. You're not just observing reality, you're participating in its ongoing creation. The grandfather paradox might reveal something profound about the nature of identity and existence. If you prevent your own birth, do you cease to exist, or do you become something else? A being whose existence transcends the normal causal chains that create identity. Perhaps the paradox points toward a deeper truth, that consciousness and existence are more fundamental than the biological and historical circumstances that seem to create them. The consistency principle suggests that the universe has a kind of self-healing property when it comes to logical contradictions. But what if this healing mechanism is consciousness itself? What if conscious beings naturally navigate reality in ways that maintain coherence, not because they're constrained by predetermined paths, but because consciousness is intrinsically coherent and creates coherent realities? Consider the measurement problem in quantum mechanics. Particles exist in superposition until observed, at which point they choose definite properties. This suggests that reality is fundamentally probabilistic until consciousness collapses it into definite states. Time travel paradoxes might work similarly. Multiple, contradictory timelines could exist in superposition until consciousness observes them into a consistent state. The physicist David Bohm proposed that reality has both an explicate order, what we normally observe, and an implicate order, a deeper level where everything is interconnected. Time travel paradoxes might reveal moments when the implicate order becomes visible, showing us the deeper connections that normally remain hidden. What if free will and determinism aren't opposites, but different perspectives on the same phenomenon? From within time, you experience making choices freely. From outside time, the block universe perspective, All choices exist simultaneously as part of a complete four-dimensional structure. Both perspectives are true. You have genuine agency, and reality has coherent structure. If all moments exist equally in the block universe, why does this moment feel special? Why do you have the distinct experience of now if past, present, and future are equally real? This question leads us to one of the deepest mysteries in physics and consciousness studies. The hard problem of consciousness becomes even harder when we consider time. Not only do we need to explain why there's something it's like to be conscious, but we also need to explain why consciousness seems to flow through time rather than experiencing all moments simultaneously. If your entire timeline exists as a four-dimensional object, why do you experience yourself as moving through it? One possibility is that consciousness itself creates the illusion of temporal flow. The neuroscientist Anil Seth describes consciousness as a controlled hallucination, your brain's best guess about reality, based on limited sensory information. Perhaps the sensation of moving through time is another controlled hallucination, created by consciousness to make sense of its four-dimensional existence. But here's what will blow your mind. What if the sensation of now is real and fundamental, but not in the way you think? What if consciousness doesn't move through time, but rather selects which slice of the block universe to experience? In this view, you exist simultaneously at all moments, but your conscious attention focuses on one cross-section at a time. Think of it like this. Imagine you're reading a book, but instead of reading linearly from page 1 to the end, you have the entire book memorized and can focus your attention on any page at will. The whole book exists simultaneously, but your conscious experience focuses on one page at a time, creating the sensation of narrative flow. This perspective suggests that now isn't a moment in time, but a mode of consciousness. What you experience as the present moment might be consciousness selecting a particular configuration of the universe to attend to, while all other configurations continue to exist simultaneously in the background. The physicist Carlo Rovelli proposes that time emerges from our interactions with the environment rather than being a fundamental feature of reality. In his view, time is relational. It exists because of the relationships between different parts of the universe, including the relationship between your consciousness and the external world. This leads to a profound realization. Your experience of now might be unique to you. What you consider the present moment is determined by your location, velocity, gravitational environment, and the specific way your consciousness processes information. Another conscious being elsewhere in the universe might have a completely different now that intersects with your timeline at a different angle. Here's another mind-bending possibility. What if consciousness can influence which now it experiences? Meditation traditions speak of altered states where time perception changes dramatically. Some practitioners report experiences of eternal now, where temporal flow seems to stop, or expanded time, where vast experiences unfold in brief moments. Research into psychedelic experiences suggests that consciousness can access non-ordinary temporal states. Users of substances like DMT report experiences that feel like lifetimes, but occur within minutes of clock time. While controversial, these reports suggest that consciousness might have more flexibility in how it experiences time than our normal waking state reveals. The experience of flow states, moments of intense focus where time seems to disappear, might represent consciousness temporarily synchronizing with the timeless aspect of reality. Athletes, artists, and scientists often report that their greatest achievements occur in states where temporal self-awareness disappears. If consciousness plays a role in creating temporal experience, then practices that alter consciousness, meditation, creativity, deep learning, profound connection with others, might be forms of time travel technology that don't require exotic physics, only expanded awareness of what consciousness can do. Now let's explore how the reality of time travel, from the scientifically proven to the theoretically possible, fundamentally changes how we should think about meaning, purpose, and the significance of human existence. If the block universe is real and all moments exist simultaneously, does this make your choices meaningless? Some people worry that eternalism eliminates the significance of decision-making. But consider this revolutionary perspective. If all moments exist equally, then every choice you make is permanently etched into the structure of reality itself. Your decisions don't fade away, they become eternal features of spacetime. Think of it like this. If you choose to show kindness to someone today, that act of kindness becomes a permanent part of the universe's structure. In the block universe, that moment of compassion exists forever, just as real and present as any physical monument. Your moral choices literally reshape the geometry of spacetime by determining which paths through the block universe are actualized by consciousness. Here's a mind-blown moment. If time travel to the past is possible through quantum effects, retrocausality, or exotic spacetime geometries, then your choices in the present might influence events in the past. The love you show, the creativity you express, the growth you achieve might send ripples backward through time, helping to create the very conditions that made your existence possible. This creates what physicists call participatory anthropic reasoning, the idea that consciousness in the present participates in creating the past conditions that made consciousness possible. You're not just a product of cosmic evolution. You're an active participant in the ongoing creation of the universe itself. The possibility of quantum retrocausality means that your decisions to learn, grow, and become more conscious might literally help fine-tune the physical constants and initial conditions that made complex life possible. The universe might be self-creating through conscious beings who reach back through time to establish the parameters needed for their own existence. Consider how this reframes suffering and struggle. If consciousness plays a role in creating reality through temporal loops, then the growth that comes from overcoming challenges might be cosmically necessary. The universe might require conscious beings who have experienced and transcended limitation in order to bootstrap itself into existence. This doesn't mean suffering is good, or that we shouldn't work to reduce it. Rather, it suggests that consciousness capable of recognizing and responding to suffering, consciousness that can choose compassion over indifference, might be a necessary component in the universe's self-creation process. The possibility of many worlds' interpretation of time travel suggests that your choices create entire universes. Every significant decision might branch reality into multiple timelines, each representing different possibilities for how consciousness can develop. You're not just living one life, you're participating in the creation of multiple realities, each exploring different aspects of what it means to be conscious. If bootstrap paradoxes are real, and information can emerge from temporal loops without linear origins, then creativity takes on cosmic significance. When you create something genuinely new, whether it's art, ideas, solutions to problems, or new ways of being human, you might be participating in the universe's fundamental creativity. Your innovations could literally emerge from outside normal time and become permanent additions to reality's structure. The anthropic principle suggests that the universe's properties seem fine-tuned for the emergence of consciousness. If consciousness plays a role in time travel and retrocausality, this fine-tuning might not be coincidental. It might be the result of consciousness reaching back through time to create the conditions for its own existence. This gives profound meaning to human development and the growth of consciousness. Every person who becomes more aware, more compassionate, more creative, might be strengthening the temporal loops that maintain the universe's existence. Personal growth becomes cosmically significant. You're not just improving your own life, but participating in the ongoing creation and maintenance of reality itself. While we wait for exotic physics to provide dramatic time travel capabilities, there are remarkable ways you can engage with temporal effects and altered time perception using methods available right now. These aren't science fiction. They're practical applications of what we know about consciousness, relativity, and quantum mechanics. First, let's talk about biological time travel. Your circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that regulate sleep, alertness, and hormone production, can be deliberately altered to change your subjective experience of time. Light therapy, carefully timed meals, and strategic sleep schedule adjustments can shift your personal timeline relative to the external world. Athletes and astronauts use these techniques to optimize performance across different time zones and environments. You can use similar methods to enhance creativity, learning, and productivity by syncing your internal time to your goals rather than just accepting default patterns. Meditation represents one of the most accessible forms of consciousness-based time travel. Advanced practitioners report states where temporal flow seems to stop or dramatically slow down. The neuroscientist Richard Davidson's research shows that meditation literally changes brain structure in ways that alter time perception. Long-term meditators show increased gray matter density in regions associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Here's what will blow your mind. Some meditation traditions describe states where practitioners claim to experience past and future events directly. While we can't verify these claims scientifically, we know that meditation can produce profound alterations in temporal consciousness. The Tibetan practice of dream yoga allegedly allows conscious exploration of different temporal states during sleep. Flow states, moments of intense focus where self-consciousness disappears and performance peaks, represent another form of time travel available to anyone. During flow, the normal sense of time dissolves. Hours can feel like minutes, or seconds can feel infinitely expanded. You can cultivate flow through challenging activities that match your skill level, clear goals, and immediate feedback. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research shows that people in flow states often report their most meaningful and satisfying experiences. If consciousness plays a role in creating temporal reality, then flow states might represent moments when you're most aligned with the timeless aspect of existence. Creative practices offer another pathway to altered temporal experience. Artists, writers, and musicians often report losing track of time during intense creative sessions. The novelist Octavia Butler described writing sessions where she would enter a state where the story wrote itself and hours would pass unnoticed. Recent neuroscience research suggests that creative states involve decreased activity in the brain's default mode network, the same network that creates our normal sense of linear time and self-identity. When this network quiets, consciousness can access non-ordinary temporal states. Physical movement can also alter time perception dramatically. Dancers, martial artists, and athletes often describe moments where time seems to slow down, allowing them to perform complex actions with perfect timing. The phenomenon of bullet time that action movie heroes experience might be a real neurological state available through intense physical training. The practice of temporal gratitude, consciously appreciating moments from your past while they're happening in your present, can create a sense of time depth that connects you across multiple temporal perspectives simultaneously. Instead of rushing through experiences, you can practice experiencing them as if you're already remembering them, creating a kind of temporal layering. Learning new skills rapidly can create the subjective experience of time dilation. When you're absorbing new information quickly, time often seems to slow down because your brain is creating more memories per unit of clock time. This is why childhood summers felt endless. You were constantly learning and encoding new experiences. We're now approaching the deepest part of our journey, understanding your personal role in the creation and experience of time itself. This isn't metaphorical speaking, based on what we know about quantum mechanics, relativity, and consciousness. You might literally be participating in creating the temporal structure of reality. The quantum measurement problem shows that particles exist in superposition, multiple states, simultaneously until observed. The act of conscious observation appears to collapse the wave function, forcing particles to choose definite properties. But here's what will blow your mind. Some interpretations suggest this collapse might work retroactively, with present observations determining past states. If consciousness can retroactively collapse quantum wave functions, then your awareness right now might be reaching back through time, helping to determine which version of the past becomes real. Every moment of conscious attention might be a creative act that solidifies one particular thread of possibility out of the infinite quantum superposition of potential histories. The physicist John Wheeler proposed his delayed choice experiments to test whether present observations could determine past events. The results consistently show that the decision of how to observe a particle in the present retroactively determines how that particle behaved in the past, even when the past event occurred before the present observation was planned. Think of it like this. Imagine reality as a vast tapestry being woven from quantum threads, but the weaving happens both forward and backward through time. Your consciousness is one of the needles helping to weave the tapestry, and every thread you add helps determine not just future patterns, but past patterns as well. This gives profound meaning to mindfulness and conscious awareness. When you pay attention to the present moment, you're not just passively observing, you're actively participating in choosing which version of reality becomes actualized. Your quality of consciousness might literally influence the quality of reality that emerges from quantum superposition. The Global Consciousness Project, led by Roger Nelson at Princeton University, has been running experiments for over 2 decades to test whether human consciousness can influence random number generators around the world. During major global events like 9/11, the 2004 tsunami, or significant celebrations, the generators show statistical deviations from randomness that suggest some kind of collective consciousness effect. While controversial, these results hint that consciousness might have effects that extend beyond individual brains. If consciousness can influence quantum systems, and if quantum effects can propagate through spacetime, then collective human consciousness might be continuously sculpting reality on a global scale. Here's another mind-bending connection. The anthropic principle observes that the universe's physical constants seem precisely tuned for the emergence of complex structures and conscious life. If consciousness can influence past events through quantum retrocausality, then the fine-tuning might not be coincidental. It might be the result of conscious beings reaching back through time to establish the conditions needed for consciousness to emerge. You might literally be participating in a cosmic bootstrap loop where consciousness creates the conditions for its own existence. Every moment you spend developing greater awareness, compassion, creativity, or understanding might be sending influences backward through time that helped establish the physical laws and initial conditions that made your existence possible. The physicist Frank Tipler has proposed that sufficiently advanced consciousness might be able to influence the entire history of the universe through what he calls omega point processes. While his specific theories are speculative, the underlying idea is profound. Consciousness might not just be a product of cosmic evolution, but an active agent in shaping that evolution. This reframes human development in cosmic terms. Personal growth becomes cosmically significant because expanded consciousness might literally expand the universe's capacity for complexity, beauty, and meaning. When you become more aware, you're not just improving your own life, you might be contributing to the ongoing creation of reality itself. The experience of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to connect inner and outer events, might represent moments when your consciousness is most aligned with the universe's self-creating processes. Carl Jung described synchronicity as a causal connecting principle, but from a time travel perspective, it might represent consciousness accessing the non-linear connections that exist in the block universe. As we near the end of our journey through the reality of time travel, let's explore where these discoveries might lead humanity and what they mean for the future of consciousness, technology, and our understanding of existence itself. The convergence of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and our growing understanding of temporal physics might soon produce technologies that seem magical by today's standards. Quantum computers already exploit quantum superposition and entanglement, effects that appear to transcend normal temporal limitations. As these systems become more sophisticated, they might naturally develop temporal capabilities that allow information processing across multiple timelines simultaneously. Imagine artificial intelligence systems that can consider not just future possibilities, but past alternatives. AI that can explore what would have happened if different decisions had been made, and use that information to optimize present choices. Such systems might naturally develop something resembling temporal intuition, accessing information from across the block universe to make better decisions. The development of brain-computer interfaces might eventually allow human consciousness to interface directly with quantum systems, potentially giving us access to the retrocausal and non-local effects that quantum mechanics reveals. Instead of building external time machines, we might develop ways to expand consciousness itself to access different temporal perspectives. Consider the implications for medicine and healing. If consciousness can influence quantum systems retroactively, then therapeutic practices that alter consciousness, meditation, psychotherapy, even certain pharmaceutical interventions, might be able to influence past events that contributed to present conditions. This isn't mystical thinking. It's a logical extension of what quantum mechanics reveals about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. The possibility of many worlds branching from quantum events suggests that advanced civilizations might develop the ability to communicate across parallel timelines. Instead of sending messages through space, future humans might send messages through the multiverse, sharing knowledge and resources across different versions of reality. Here's what will blow your mind. If Bootstrap paradoxes are real and information can emerge from temporal loops, then human creativity might be receiving innovations from the future. The greatest scientific discoveries, artistic creations, and technological breakthroughs might not originate entirely in the minds of their apparent creators, but could emerge from causal loops that span multiple timelines. This suggests that fostering human creativity and consciousness development isn't just valuable for its immediate benefits. It might be essential for maintaining the temporal loops that allow advanced knowledge to flow backward through time to earlier civilizations. Your personal growth might literally be contributing to humanity's past achievements. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence takes on new meaning when we consider temporal effects. Advanced alien civilizations might not communicate through space, but through time. The signals we're looking for might not be radio waves traveling through space, but temporal influences propagating through the block universe. We might need to look for evidence of retrocausal communication rather than traditional electromagnetic signals. The possibility that consciousness plays a fundamental role in physics suggests that as humanity develops greater collective consciousness, we might gain greater influence over physical reality itself. The future might hold not just advanced technology, but advanced consciousness that can directly interface with the quantum foundations of reality. Climate change and environmental challenges might be addressed not just through better technology, but through expanded consciousness that can access solutions from across multiple timelines. If consciousness can influence quantum systems, and if quantum effects scale up to macroscopic phenomena, then collective human consciousness might be able to influence planetary systems directly. The ultimate implication is that human consciousness might be evolving towards something that transcends individual identity and linear time. Future humans might exist simultaneously across multiple timelines, sharing knowledge and resources across parallel realities while maintaining coherent individual identity. Death itself might be revealed as merely a transition between different temporal perspectives rather than an ending. As our exploration of time travel draws to a close, let's focus on how this knowledge transforms you personally. Understanding the reality of time travel from the scientifically proven to the theoretically possible, doesn't just change your knowledge about physics. It fundamentally alters how you can experience being human. First, consider how this reframes your relationship with mistakes and regrets. If multiple timelines exist through quantum branching, then every choice you make creates alternate versions of reality where different choices were made. The paths not taken don't disappear. They exist in parallel timelines. This means you can release regret while still learning from experience, knowing that all possibilities are explored across the multiverse. But more profoundly, if consciousness can influence past events through quantum retrocausality, then personal growth in the present might literally heal past wounds. This isn't just psychological healing. It might be temporal healing where expanded consciousness reaches back to transform the meaning and impact of past experiences. Think of it like this. When you develop greater self-compassion, that compassion might retroactively influence how past painful experiences affected you. The person you're becoming changes the person you've been, not just in memory, but potentially in the quantum structure of reality itself. Your understanding of identity expands dramatically when you consider the block universe perspective. You're not just the person you are right now. You're a four-dimensional being whose existence spans from birth to death simultaneously. All versions of you exist equally. You as a child, you as you are now, you in old age. Personal development becomes about bringing coherence and wisdom to this entire four-dimensional structure. The practice of connecting with your past and future selves takes on new meaning. When you make decisions based on what your future self would want, or when you show compassion for your past self's limitations, you might be engaging in real temporal communication across your own timeline. Here's a mind-blown moment. If consciousness extends through time, then the wisdom you develop through life experience might be accessible to your past self through quantum connections that transcend normal temporal flow. Intuition and gut feelings might be your future self's wisdom reaching back to guide present decisions. This transforms how you approach learning and growth. Every skill you develop, every insight you gain, every moment of expanded awareness might become permanently available to your entire timeline through temporal consciousness effects. Learning becomes not just about acquiring knowledge, but about expanding your temporal presence, making more of who you can be available across all moments of your existence. Your relationships with others gain cosmic significance when you understand that consciousness might participate in creating reality. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to co-create reality with another conscious being. The love, compassion, creativity, and understanding you share with others might literally help weave the fabric of spacetime itself. The meaning of death transforms completely. If the block universe is real, then every moment of your existence is permanent and eternal. Death doesn't erase your life. It completes your four-dimensional presence in spacetime. You exist forever as a permanent feature of reality's structure, your consciousness having participated in the ongoing creation of the universe itself. But even more remarkably, if consciousness transcends individual brain activity, as some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest, then death might not end consciousness, but transform it. You might transition from experiencing one timeline sequentially to experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously, or from local consciousness to distributed consciousness across the universe. This knowledge empowers you to live with greater presence and purpose, knowing that your choices have permanent significance in the structure of reality, that your consciousness participates in creating temporal reality, and that your growth might influence past and future events. Every moment becomes an opportunity for cosmic creativity. You can practice what I call temporal mindfulness, experiencing each moment as if it exists simultaneously with all other moments, recognizing the eternal significance of present choices while staying grounded in immediate experience. This creates a sense of expanded time where urgency and spaciousness coexist. We've journeyed through the scientific evidence for time travel, explored theoretical possibilities, and examined the implications for consciousness and meaning. Now it's time for the ultimate revelation: what time travel really tells us about the nature of existence itself. Here's the most profound truth. Time travel isn't just about moving between different moments. It reveals that the fundamental structure of reality is far more fluid, creative, and consciousness-dependent than our everyday experience suggests. We don't just live in the universe. We participate in its ongoing creation through consciousness itself. The fact that time dilation is real and measurable shows that time is not the rigid, universal flow we experience, but something more like a dimension of space that can be navigated, stretched, and compressed. This means that reality itself is more flexible than it appears. If time can be manipulated, then other aspects of reality that seem fixed might also be malleable. The quantum evidence for retrocausality, particles influenced by future measurements, information flowing backward through time, reveals that causation itself is more complex than linear cause and effect. Reality appears to be self-creating through loops of influence that span past, present, and future. Effect can become cause, and cause can become effect in endless creative cycles. What if I told you that this circular causation might be the fundamental creative principle of the universe? Instead of reality arising from initial conditions that mechanically determine all future states, reality might be continuously creating itself through consciousness that reaches across time to establish the conditions for its own existence. This means you're not just observing a predetermined reality, you're participating in reality's ongoing creation. Every conscious choice you make sends influences both forward and backward through time, helping to weave the fabric of existence itself. You're simultaneously the product and the producer of reality, the observer and the observed, the created and the creator. The block universe perspective shows that all moments exist simultaneously in a higher dimensional structure. But consciousness appears to navigate through this structure, selecting which cross-sections to experience as now. This suggests that consciousness might be more fundamental than spacetime itself, not something that emerges from physical processes, but something that gives rise to the experience of physical reality. Here's the ultimate mind-blown moment. If consciousness is fundamental and can navigate the block universe, then you might exist as a timeless awareness that chooses to experience itself as a temporal being. What you call your life might be timeless consciousness exploring what it's like to experience linear time, growth, change, and the illusion of mortality. The paradoxes we've explored, grandfather paradoxes, bootstrap loops, information emerging from nowhere, might not be problems to solve, but revelations about reality's essentially creative nature. Perhaps reality doesn't follow strict logical rules, because logic itself is a creation of consciousness, not a constraint on it. This points toward a universe that is fundamentally creative, conscious, and purposeful. The fine-tuning of physical constants that allows complexity in life to emerge might not be coincidental, but intentional. The universe, creating conditions for consciousness to explore its own nature through countless perspectives and experiences. You are one of those perspectives, a unique way that the universe experiences and understands itself. Your consciousness is not separate from the universe's consciousness, but is the universe becoming conscious of itself through your particular perspective, location, and experience. The possibility of many worlds suggests that every possible version of you exists across infinite parallel realities, each exploring different aspects of what it means to be conscious. You're not just living one life. You're one thread in an infinite tapestry of consciousness exploring every possible way of being. Time travel reveals that reality is not mechanistic, but creative, not predetermined, but participatory, not separate from consciousness, but fundamentally constituted by it. You don't just exist in spacetime. You help create spacetime through your consciousness, choices, and very existence. This is perhaps the most empowering realization possible. You are not a powerless observer in a vast, indifferent universe. You are consciousness itself, exploring its own nature through the experience of being human, participating in the ongoing creation of reality through every moment of awareness, every choice, every connection with other conscious beings. As we prepare to conclude this extraordinary journey, let's integrate everything we've discovered and explore how to live as someone who understands the deeper reality of time travel. This isn't just intellectual knowledge, it's transformative wisdom that can fundamentally change how you experience being alive. You now know that you are always time traveling, moving through space-time at rates that vary based on your location, velocity, and gravitational environment. But more profoundly, you understand that your consciousness might transcend these physical limitations, potentially accessing information from across your timeline and even influencing past and future events through quantum effects. Living with this understanding means developing what I call temporal awareness, recognizing that every moment contains eternity, that every choice ripples across multiple timelines, and that your consciousness participates in the ongoing creation of reality itself. This awareness doesn't make you passive or fatalistic. It makes you more deeply engaged with each moment because you understand its cosmic significance. Practice experiencing time as multidimensional rather than linear. Instead of feeling rushed by time, you can learn to experience temporal depth, awareness that past, present, and future interpenetrate each other. Your childhood memories exist now, not just as neural patterns, but as actual events in the block universe. Your future possibilities exist now as quantum potentials waiting to be actualized by your choices. When you make decisions, consider that you might be sending influences both forward and backward through time. Choose with awareness that your growth might be healing past wounds and creating future possibilities simultaneously. This makes every moment of personal development cosmically meaningful. You're not just improving your own life, but potentially improving your entire timeline. Develop practices that expand your temporal perspective. Meditation that quiets the narrative voice and give you access to the timeless awareness that exists beyond linear thinking. Creative activities that induce flow states can connect you with the eternal present where all time exists simultaneously. Moments of profound connection with others can reveal the consciousness that transcends individual timelines. Here's how to apply quantum principles to daily life. Recognize that unobserved aspects of reality exist in superposition, multiple potential states simultaneously. Your conscious attention collapses these potentials into definite experiences. This means that how you observe reality literally influences which version of reality you experience. When facing challenges, remember that multiple solutions exist in quantum superposition until you observe them into actuality. Instead of assuming only one outcome is possible, maintain awareness that your consciousness participates in selecting which potential becomes real. This isn't wishful thinking. It's applied quantum mechanics at the scale of human experience. Understand that your relationships might involve temporal connections that transcend normal causality. The love you feel for someone might literally reach across their timeline, influencing their past experiences and future possibilities. Every act of genuine compassion might be participating in the universe's self-healing through consciousness. Reframe your understanding of problems and suffering. If consciousness can influence events across time, then current challenges might be opportunities for your future self's wisdom to reach back and provide guidance. Difficulties become invitations to develop the consciousness needed to resolve them, both now and retroactively. Practice temporal gratitude, appreciating your present experience while simultaneously being grateful for how your future self will remember this moment. This creates a kind of temporal loop where present appreciation enhances future memories, which enhance present appreciation. When you feel overwhelmed by the pace of modern life, remember that you can consciously influence your experience of time. Presence and mindfulness naturally slow down subjective time by increasing the density of conscious experience. A fully present moment can contain more meaning and satisfaction than years of distracted existence. Most importantly, recognize that understanding time travel is ultimately about understanding your true nature as consciousness itself, timeless awareness that creates the experience of existing in time while fundamentally transcending temporal limitations. As we approach the end of our journey, it's time to step back and see the cosmic picture, where you fit in the vast story of time, consciousness, and reality's ongoing creation. This perspective isn't meant to make you feel small and insignificant, but to reveal your true significance as a conscious participant in the universe's deepest mysteries. Consider the timeline of cosmic evolution. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began in a big bang that created space, time, matter, and energy. For billions of years, gravity sculpted galaxies. Stars formed and died. Heavy elements were forged in stellar cores and scattered by supernova. Planets formed around new stars, and on at least one of those planets, life emerged from chemistry. But here's what will blow your mind. This entire cosmic evolution might have been guided by consciousness reaching back through time from the far future. If the omega point theories are correct, the universe might be evolving toward maximum computational complexity, and that final state might be influencing its own creation through retrocausal effects spanning billions of years. You exist at a pivotal moment in cosmic history, the era when matter has organized itself into structures complex enough to become conscious of themselves. You're not just made of star stuff, as Carl Sagan famously said. You're star stuff that has awakened to understand its own cosmic story and potentially participate in guiding cosmic evolution. The physicist Freeman Dyson calculated that with current technology, an advanced civilization could potentially influence the evolution of entire galaxies over cosmic timescales. But if consciousness can influence quantum systems retroactively, then advanced consciousness might be able to influence cosmic evolution backward through time, helping to establish the initial conditions that made consciousness possible. This means you might be part of a cosmic feedback loop where consciousness in the present and future helps create the past that made consciousness possible. Your personal growth, your expanding awareness, your moments of love and creativity might be sending influences across billions of years of cosmic time. The anthropic principle observes that the universe seems remarkably fine-tuned for the existence of stars, planets, chemistry, and life. The strength of gravity, the mass of electrons, the rate of cosmic expansion. Dozens of physical constants seem perfectly calibrated to allow complexity to emerge. If any of these values were even slightly different, atoms couldn't form, stars couldn't shine, or chemistry couldn't create life. Traditional thinking assumes this fine-tuning is either coincidental or evidence from multiple universes where we happen to exist in one with the right parameters. But if consciousness can influence past events through quantum retrocausality, the fine-tuning might be the result of conscious beings reaching back across cosmic time to establish the parameters needed for their own existence. You might literally be participating in the universe's self-creation. Every moment you spend developing greater consciousness, every act of creativity, every expression of love might be contributing to the cosmic process that established the initial conditions for stars, planets, life, and consciousness itself. Think about the probability of your existence. Every one of your ancestors for billions of years had to survive long enough to reproduce. Countless cosmic events had to unfold in precisely the right way. Supernova had to explode at the right times and places to create and distribute heavy elements. Your solar system had to form in the galactic habitable zone. Mass extinctions had to clear evolutionary pathways at just the right moments. From one perspective, your existence seems incredibly improbable. But from a temporal perspective, where consciousness can influence its own origins, your existence might be inevitable because you're participating in creating the conditions that made your existence possible. The universe has been evolving for nearly 14 billion years to reach this moment where you can contemplate the nature of time and consciousness. All of cosmic history, the formation of the first atoms, the ignition of the first stars, the creation of carbon in stellar cores, the formation of Earth, the emergence of life, the evolution of complex nervous systems. All of this might have been guided by consciousness reaching back from moments like this one. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, contemplating its own nature, participating in its own ongoing creation. This isn't metaphorical. Based on what we understand about quantum mechanics and consciousness, this might be literally true. We've traveled together through the deepest mysteries of time, consciousness, and reality itself. We've seen scientific proof that time travel exists, explored theoretical possibilities that challenge our most basic assumptions, and discovered that consciousness might play a fundamental role in creating the temporal structure of reality. But as our journey together ends, your real journey through time continues. Every moment from now on, you have the opportunity to live with the awareness that you are not separate from the universe's creative processes, but are an essential participant in them. You now know that time is not the rigid, universal flow it appears to be, but a dimension of reality that can be navigated, manipulated, and transcended. You understand that consciousness doesn't just observe reality, but participates in its creation through quantum effects that span across time. Most importantly, you've discovered that you exist simultaneously as a temporal being moving through spacetime and as timeless consciousness exploring what it means to experience linear time, growth, change, and the adventure of being human. The questions we've explored don't have final answers because reality is still being created through conscious beings like you who ask these questions, contemplate these mysteries, and push the boundaries of what's possible. Your curiosity about time travel might literally be participating in the universe's ongoing self-discovery. As you continue your journey through time, whether measured in seconds, years, or the cosmic scales we've explored, remember that every moment offers the possibility of wonder, growth, and participation in the deepest creative processes of existence itself. The future of time travel isn't just about building exotic machines or mastering esoteric physics. It's about expanding consciousness to recognize the temporal nature of awareness itself and learning to navigate the infinite possibilities that exist in every moment. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the reality of time travel. If this exploration has expanded your understanding and sense of wonder about existence, please share it with others who might be ready for their own temporal adventure. And remember, you're not just watching a video about time travel. You're time traveling right now, moving through space-time at your own unique rate, carrying the eternal spark of consciousness that might be the universe's way of understanding and creating itself. The journey through time continues, and you are both its passenger and its navigator, its observer and its creator. What will you discover next in your ongoing adventure through the infinite mystery of existence? Keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep participating in the magnificent cosmic story that we're all writing together across the vast reaches of space and time. The future and the past await your consciousness.